Hello, everyone, and welcome to our workshop. Today, we are going to discuss about how to design together solutions for the active and healthy aging population. And the first in agenda, we have a presentation from Estonian Public Sector Innovation Team, and Daniel Kotsjuba will give you an insight how it is to co-design solutions on the government level. And then later on, we will have a discussion about our own toolkit, how to involve stakeholders, and specifically, I'm going to present you a checklist for the questions. What are the questions you need to ask in order to go through participatory design process? And ask questions from yourself, not from the others. So, yeah, I think that it's a good idea to start with your presentation, Daniel, and then maybe I will have a few questions later on. And all of you who are listening, then you can drop your questions in the chat box, and I will present and ask those questions from Daniel. And then later on, also maybe when we have discussion about our solution, then the same thing applies. So at any moment when you have some comments or questions, please drop or put them in the chat box and we will ask the questions. So Daniel, Estonia Public Sector Innovation Team, and how you collaborate with private sector and with different stakeholders. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Piret. And thank you very much for the invitation to talk about our work in Estonian sector public innovation, in the public sector innovation team. I'll do a brief introduction and try to be as concise as possible to cover who we are and how we work, and to maybe bring an example of what have been the outcomes of some of our works. So it's not only me, but it's the four of us. And it's Merilin, Helen, Ave, and Daniel. It's me. So we are the team that actually started out three of us, but we managed to maybe as a team expand a bit. So we started out in 2018, and we started out as an experiment in Estonian public sector. It was a sort of an outcome of a task force that gave an opinion that similar sort of a unit should be put together, and the idea was that it should be sort of a cross-ministerial. So in the beginning, we were a team of 6 ministries, which meant that 6 ministries sort of had their inputs in our team, and we sort of had to report to the board of secretary generals, and that was important because in that way we had the highest mandate to work on different projects, but at the same time we were sort of cross-ministerial, which meant that we as a neutral playground, we create a space where different stakeholders can come together and not necessarily sort of challenge their different opinions on given topic, but rather try to cooperate on one specific problem. And I'll try to be more specific about in a couple of minutes. So how we work is we have an open call for projects. And this open call means that we announce innovation program happening, and we call ministry officials to submit their problems at hand. So for us, it's really important to have projects that are currently, the ministries are currently tackling in their own houses. So some of our core maybe pillars that our team tries to support in public sector is customer friendly and user centric public services. for us as a team, it's maybe the most important thing. And what is the reason behind it is that quite often we design services according to the service provider's perspective, not necessarily the end user's perspective. And there are objective reasons for that, because to develop a public service, and quite often, as we know, that public services are sort of overwhelming and over the playground, they are influenced by different stakeholders. Then quite often, when we develop a service from the service provider's perspective, what is the efficiency of how we provide, give the service as efficient as possible, or as how the workforces and workflows are most what's the word, smooth, or etc. Then quite often, if we don't consider the end user's perspective, it may not be on the picture necessarily. We promote cooperation, definitely, and my biggest surprise for myself, because I come from the private sector, my actually connection with the public sector has been very low before innovation team. And so for my biggest surprise, maybe the biggest innovation in Estonian public sector is cooperation. And without a doubt, it's important aspect also. And we try to provide new ways of working, new tools in public sector, agile and iterative processes, more how we can be more use data to be more knowledge aware and knowledgeful, or something like this. But we also try to create this safe space where we don't have to have necessarily fixed ideas. We can talk about half cooked ideas, and be and try to develop them together. And also we do networking events during as a part of our work. So here's a picture of a project we had a couple of years ago, where we tried to pilot the outcome of the project just playing with Legos. And the solution was a timeout station that we could very cheaply, many details we could play around with just Legos. And at first, the police was, when they came to the workshop, they thought that, is this a joke? But when we started to, when we went through the processes, they actually accepted these methods, and they tried to visualize ideas also in a different ways than just paper and text. So what we do is this. We introduce design thinking, like these presentations, short courses, consultations, similar to what we have today. It's a a think-along sessions. Then we do these 2-month long design sprints in public sector, which we would have like 5 days when we get together. But during these mid sessions, then we have this homeworks that we do, or gather real information, consult with different parties, etc. And then we have these service design programs that I mentioned before, where we have an open call for teams to submit the team and also a project or problem at hand. And then we have these iClub or eClubi networking events, where we try to really provide a more, it's in a an outward looking activity that we do, different workshops, different maybe inspirational talks about new ways of sharing or of working, and this is also a format where we present publicly 2 times during the innovation program. We have these public presentations where we share how far we've gone, what what kind of insights we've reached and how we're going to go forward. And these are the places where we also gather sort of interested parties to collaborate in different projects. And innovation cells are sort of these, in Estonian public sector, we have quite many institutions already have these sort of innovation specialists or service managers, or whose role is to sort of support innovation spreading across their field or their institutions. So, but quite often they're alone in their organization, and we try to gather them and have sort of a support group and a sort of a co-learning and co-working group. And then we share our toolbox, our methods and worksheets among all the interested, whoever knows to ask us. At the moment, it's like that, yes. Just a brief, maybe to point out how we work is we base a lot of work on the British Design Council double diamond method. And why I'm bringing it out is it's important because quite often what we see is that when we call for projects, then people quite often, or specialists quite often, submit already a solution or an understanding of what a solution is. But in the first part of the process, we lay a lot of amount of time to actually understand the problem from the user's perspective, understand the context that really influences his or hers sort of problems that they tackle. And this is really important because this way we can really get sort of empathetic understanding of the problem. And that's why we can really sort of develop a better solution for the service. And of course, we have the sort of the second part of the process is we try to develop solutions and develop it to the prototype level. This year also we're more focusing on experimenting in Estonian public sector, which means that we don't want to only stop in political suggestions, or we want to really test out the solution. Either a prototype, we test it with end users, or experiment, we do pilots or RCTs. And what we mean by fieldwork is that this is something unique that we've learned from other similar teams across the world, is that we go with the public sector officials to the field work. Right. It doesn't matter if it's trash sorting or as you can see in the picture here, or is it trying to reduce the speeding. Every project we go to the field and we try to understand with the team together what is the problem and what is the user's context. So I'll try to be as concise as possible, and I'm not gonna talk about every detail, but I'll try to give you an overview of some of the maybe some of the aspects that this kind of user-centered approach that we try to foster here really has. So the beginning was the first one of the first projects that we had on our table was the design of cancer patient journey, and we tried to look at the cancer patient's journey with the eyes of a patient, because quite often we see that the treatment journey is done from the medical specialist's perspective. Either we have family doctors or either the process of medical centers. So this was actually initiated by North Estonian Medical Center, and the initial idea was to look how the patient goes through their own house, but as we got the project, we shifted the focus on we will look at the whole journey. Sorry. We will look at the complete journey from the patient's perspective, which meant that patient is not only inside a medical center, but he or she has a journey before and afterwards. And then we had suggestions to improve the activities of general family doctors, doctors, and palliative care based on that journey. And the team consisted mainly of the North Estonian Medical Center, but also from the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health. Piret, help me out how we translate Haigekassa.
Health Insurance Fund.
Health Insurance Fund, thanks. So based on our interviews, and we did qualitative interviews and focus group with patients, we developed these sort of typical users or personas. They're like characterizations of who the cancer patient is. And necessarily, it's not that we talk about here specific users. We try to open up what are the different ways how we can experience socio-emotionally cancer and the journey that the patient goes through. So we created these visualizations of a typical user. It may be a younger or elderly person, a male or female. There are different ways to look at cancer journey. And we created these tools called journey maps, patient journey maps, and to visualize what are the touch points during a journey. And I must say, this project was this part of the project was very important because this is the place where we can create abstract topics, very specific. We got together with the whole team and we looked at the journeys, and then we can discuss why are these low points, why are these high points, how we can really enhance the low points and and maybe even boost the high points even higher. So visualization is a very important part of the work that we do, and this helps to create more common understanding of the problems that we are tackling. So I'll share some insights on what kind of solutions that we developed during that project that really helped to understand, and maybe helps you understand also what kind of quality of information we are getting out. So you'll see some post-its here, and the yellows are with patient quotes. Greens are close one quotes and service provider, which is either a family doctor or some medical service provider. So the first thing that the whole team was quite, I can't say surprised, but it was important insight that the need for support starts even before the diagnosis. It starts with waiting diagnosis. This is the place where all the patients, regardless of age, regardless of gender, said that this is the hardest time of their life when they're waiting for the diagnosis, either it's positive or negative, etc. And the problem here is that that actually the patient is not inside the system yet. So how we can support patient during that time, and why it's important is that this is a place where person goes to Dr. Google, goes to their best friends, goes to alternative medicine, etc., that actually can influence their well-being and their ability to also to the word would be maybe to help to not have side effects, basically. But the same time, the same period of time is important to the close ones also, and they are also in a unknown situation. Patients' awareness and the overview of the treatment journey is very low, and we have to understand that quite often people are the first time in contact with the social system and the healthcare system. So what is the first contact is really important to design in order to for people to manage in that system. Access to supporting treatment is random. People quite often need besides. So this is something that for me personally, I would say is the sort of the hidden obvious, and that people want to be taken as a whole person, not only as a cancer patient, but they have a whole life besides that. They don't identify themselves with that. So, but the system or the process is designed according to the treatment of the cancer, and that's why the access to the supporting aspects of the treatment is very necessary. And there was a patient who told me that I'll contact the social worker when the chemotherapy ends, which was in 3 weeks, but she needed a social therapy at that moment. And at the same time, the doctors themselves also say that a huge amount of their time goes to organizing people's lives or organizing appointments with third parties, and this is not their time. They don't have time for that. And actually, we don't even want doctors to spend their time on that. And maybe third or fourth important insight that we had is that the time and energy spent in recurring visits was enormous, and it was actually it was due to some technical aspects and why doctors can't book next visit more than 4 months in advance, which led people in a huge headache. So we had different stakeholders at our desk, and some of the solutions that we developed. One was nurse coordinator. It's sort of a new position in Estonian Medical Center, and this is the person who reduces the administrative burden of doctors, and also is a sort of a translator between medical team and patient and their close ones. So he or she is sort of a buffer zone for a patient that helps and keeps track of a patient's well-being. Also, the treatment plan includes visits from the outset of the treatment process to the support specialists. And there are a scientific proof that actually providing the support treatment from the beginning actually helps to reduce or helps to has better effects to healing. And also, we suggested that there should be solutions that support and empower the patients, as would be the patient-reported outcome measurements or patient-reported experience measurements to be taken into the work. So that there would be constant connection and sort of more better connection between patient and medical system. So thanks from my side. Sorry about the technical problem. So today we can say that we started out with this project 2018, and today in this we can say that a really hype word in healthcare system is a patient journey. Quite often, maybe we don't really know how to yet verbalize or contextualize it, but the effect of this and other projects similar that were at hand at the time really had an influence to take a look at the patient's perspective. And now many of these solutions are actually being implemented as we speak to the system. So thanks. And if you have any questions, I'll love to ask them.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. It's really, really detailed insight to this to this innovation team work. And I really like this last sentence what you have, that innovation is implemented solutions. So until we have it on the paper only, then it's not an innovation yet. It's a good idea. But my question is that you have done this work for a couple of years now, and I have been also myself, I have been part of this process at least once, if I remember correctly. So it was really, really rewarding for me. But during these years, what would you like to point out? What is the hardest thing in this co-creation process? Where is the biggest danger actually?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
Huge question.
Yeah.
Okay. We have been asked actually about what are the places where service design can be applied, what are the places where service design cannot be applied. Actually, this is a similar actual answer to both questions. For me personally, it's really about how you approach the process. If you are coming already with fixed ideas, fixed understanding of the problem, you don't have openness to understand actually user's context and perspective, then there is a danger that you are actually not actually getting the full benefit of the process. This needs courage, definitely. This needs actually support from the leadership. It doesn't happen by itself, and the whole process actually needs support from the leadership. That's why it's we all the time emphasize it's important for the Secretary Generals, especially, to have their support, and that's why they actually pick our topics. So I must say these are maybe some of the biggest challenges to manage expectations, and what brings to collaboration is that I guess as a mentor or a facilitator, you always, especially that this is the part that we see as a benefit for our position, that we are not having our own agenda, is that we are not actually we don't own the topic, which means that we have to always look that everyone has a word to say. They can open up their perspective. It's not that some people are louder or some people are quieter, then we take sort of the information of the louder people. We have to always keep in mind that it actually serves the interests of all the parties that are around the table. And our job is to keep the user's problem, user's perspective and context always on the table. This needs also an advocate. So long answer to your question. I don't know even if I answered it actually, but I guess there are some conditions to what really support the process and that actually do not support the process.
Okay, clear. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. And there is one question from the audience also, and again, it's. These are quite detailed questions. I would love to hear more about number one, how the project submission, selection, financing with the 3 to 6 ministries works, but practically, like really how you put together all those processes. Maybe it's good to give a really short overview how you select the teams and how you decide what kind of innovation you're going to design.
Yeah, we started out by 6 ministries. Maybe I forgot to mention it, but today maybe the first, maybe selling that kind of first
proof moment was that that now we are having all the 11 ministries of Estonian government behind our back. When we call for when we have an open call for projects, then we ask people submit. First of all, really important is that people or the stakeholders come with a really important problem that is that is sort of in their schedule, that they have to work either or, and we actually provide a process to help tackle that problem. That is the first one, and then we actually are going through these submissions, and we are looking for what are more alike sort of projects that would benefit from the processes and what would not actually. And there are maybe some processes that are already that need already only just maybe certain part of the process that don't actually benefit from the whole process, etc. And in the end, the secretary generals are the ones who will choose what are the projects that will be sort of put in the program. Yeah. There was a question about financing. I didn't catch that one. What
so
was that?
Who is paying for this process, and then who is paying for the will be there also an owner afterwards? You come up with the innovative solution, and it's quite good also for implementation, for instance. But then the question arises where we get the money for this. And
so that's why it's also important that this would be that the problems that we are tackling would be sort of important problems, not pseudo problems, and that already some budget is being sort of separated for that problem. We are not paying for the execution of the solutions. We are getting the knowledge behind our desks from the third sector, universities, private sector, etc. The ownership is always the important question, and it's never an easy question. But this is something that we try to keep as facilitators all the time in mind. That's why we also ask for people to submit their own projects or problems at hand, is that we try to have as many and we try to have as big ownership in the beginning as possible. And of course, the solutions might come out to a different field actually. And then we are working to find these owners.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And there is also a comment that this participatory design process is also kind of source of knowledge and learning for the service providers and process organizers as well. Like you gave this example that you did not realize that when the problem actually starts, not with the diagnosis, but even before that. So it's a good source of to find out who is who is the person you're designing the service for, and what are the real life issues. Mm-hmm. Do you pay citizens for their engagement, or how do you recruit participants?
Do we pay citizens for engagement?
Yeah, when you do the workshops or.
Yeah, we don't have that kind of budget. We are actually we pay for expertise, I would say, and that's what we can.
Yeah, but I can elaborate this part because I've been part of the teams, and then actually what we do is we do find end users for the solutions, and yes, we do not pay for them. It's absolutely free of charge, and actually people are happily giving their knowledge, and they are quite happy that actually somebody asks what is your issue and how you would like to solve this issue. So we
Absolutely.
haven't paid anything for the participation. How do you get feedback? This is specifically about this cancer patient project. That how do you get feedback from cancer patients? Do you have a validated survey questionnaire, or how was this process like?
Feedback on the solutions.
And when you had when you described this patient journey and.
How we are designing is we are gathering all the quantitative information about, for example, the users that we already have, and we we do an extra qualitative research on top of it, which means that we go to the context where the patient is, for example, either sort of a support groups or either the hospital itself or where else, and we are getting acquainted with the context, and this is something that we do. What is about when we talk about the solutions, that every solution is designed also according that we can actually measure. We're talking about if we're talking about the websites or digital platforms that we've had in different projects, then we do user testing, and we actually develop the websites with hand in hand with testing. Not only that we build something and that's it. So every solution has its own sort of measurements, maybe.
Thank you, Daniel. No more questions.
There is one hand raised there.
One hand is raised. Do I see the hand? Here he is. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Anupama. I'm a medical doctor and I study healthcare systems. So this is very interesting. Thank you very much, Daniel, for your presentation. I was wondering about a very specific scenario related to the cancer patients project that you have done. As a doctor, I have and a healthcare system researcher, I have seen time and again, most of the times the mindset is, if I am the stakeholder who's paying, especially, I'm the doctor, I'm the hospital, I'm the health ministry or the government, so I'm the expert, so I already know what you need, you meaning the patient and the family. So I already have designed the best possible solution. And when using this kind of jargons, empowering the patient, empowering the family and other stakeholders, what I really mean is that you should learn everything that you need to learn to help my designed solution. So I know what you need. I want you to think that I care about what you want, but in reality, I don't. So my question is, after doing this for 3 years, have you seen any change in this mindset? Because things should be the other way around. What the patient wants may or may not be what I am prescribing as a doctor. And, patient's satisfaction, patient's happiness. For example, a cancer patient can always refuse the chemotherapy because that patient wants to live in peace for the rest of his or her life, not go through this, right? And I may not have to be paying for this therapy then, because governments are always thinking about budget and costs and all these things. So have you seen any change with this with the help of all the data that you have gathered and the patient's perspective that you have presented? Have you seen any change in the mindset of these authoritative entities?
Absolutely. Thank you for a super interesting question. Yeah, I agree everything that you say. And one thing that I have personally gained is empathy towards public sector officials also, that I have gained. And one thing is that no one wants to do harm, right? No one wants to provide bad services. Doctors are the sort of how I know what's it called in Estonia, are the sort of they know what the human soul wants. There is something like a saying about this. So I think it's maybe just the most maybe time that has gone into our work is really proving that that there is a point to look at a user's perspective and what kind of value it actually gives to you, because no one wants to do bad work. And if we take into consideration also, because this is what we did also, we interviewed also doctors and medical specialists to understand the whole picture, not only the sort of a patient's side, is we try to make their work also easier. And there are many things that we can actually do for them to be fulfilling their maximum capability in the places that they actually need to be, not the places that they actually don't need to be. For example, organizing people's lives, right? Like socio-economically, right? So absolutely, there has been a huge positive change, and that's what I tried to say also, that so the patient journey is now a buzzword in Estonian medical system. So, but it's a process. So we need to always give time, be really we have to understand it. Everything takes time, and that's maybe important to add also. But there is no resistance in that sense. There is actually, it's actually self-growing, the appetite.
I just want to quickly clarify. I didn't want to blame any public officials or doctors. I'm a doctor myself. It's just the situation is like this. And where I see the problem is that I, as doctor, I can say, and other graduates also, we were not ever taught in the universities, in the colleges, in the schools to think in this way. We were always taught in a certain way. And when we went into the hospitals to work and we are suddenly faced with this completely different scenario that, like you very correctly said, that it's beyond my scope. Even if I have the eye to see that medical treatment will not be enough in this situation, maybe I need the help of social workers or some other entities, I have no way in the system to, avail those kind of support, and never taught any method in my school. So, yeah, I think we should start from there.
Absolutely.
In schools, colleges, universities.
That's what you're saying is legacy that we're working in. Yeah. And the public sector cannot do restarts in that sense. We have to always consider the legacy that we have. People are working in one place for 40 years sometimes. So what is the word 40 years ago is still different than now, etc. It's not only about medicals, everywhere else also. So, yeah. So thank you for the really interesting comment and question.
So we are running out of time, but Magda, do you have a short question or is it a, okay, then short question from Magda. And then we have to let Daniel go.
Great presentation, and just a short comment also to Anupama. You consider it also as co-creation, that you have an idea and you get the other idea, but it will help, this methodology will help, and that's our experience in implementing also new ideas, but you implement them in the way that people want it and not as you want. So you get their ideas in. So I would rather consider it's not top or down, it's something that really permits to work on things together. And that came well out of Daniel's presentation. So well done. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Daniel. So I hope it was really useful also for you who are listening this workshop. So Daniel, we have to let you go now. But as I promised you, we will discuss about this in the future as well.
All right. So, good luck and bye.
Bye. And now we will continue with our toolbox, toolkit workshop. So I can change the slides, yeah? So I will just shortly, because we have maybe new listeners. So the project Innovation and the Innovation Networks for Active and Healthy Aging, it's a project that aims to support innovation in silver economy and specifically for the elderly people, to help us all to stay at home as long as possible and as healthy as we can, actually. So as I like to tell you, or it's like this is the project for myself, because I really want to stay healthy and stay at home in the future with the help of innovative solutions. So it's there is no better time than now. And Science Park Tehnopol and Connected Health Cluster is the lead partner of this project, and we are an ecosystem of 40 organizations. And what we do is, in our small ecosystem, we do support co-creation, we do support scaling up innovative solutions, and we also we support the scaling up innovative solutions also cross-border, because Estonia is a very beautiful place where to live, but the market is too small. All our solutions are going to the international markets as well. So this is really short introduction of our of my company where I work. And yeah, what we want to achieve with this project is, as Daniel also said, is a process to create innovative solutions. And we are not first who are doing this, so we really would like to consider or take into account the need for deep learning from successful innovation on the market with high socioeconomic benefit. So we do want to learn from previous successful good best practices. What we also want to do is to change to create a change in understanding of the innovation cycle and the important actors by including the rising digital hubs and health clusters into health ecosystem for better knowledge transfer. So what we experienced is that, and also during this project, I have realized that companies, or really simply companies who are developing innovative solutions, they're trying to do it alone or in a very small ecosystems, but what I've learned also during my past working years, that you need to get support from surroundings, from different stakeholders. You don't have to do it all alone. And now I'm talking about the companies. And management of local authorities and members of ecosystem to meet the needs of end users. So this is what also Daniel said, that it's a tricky thing to actually realize what are the real needs of the end users. Always money is an issue if we think about developing solutions and going to the bigger markets. Then investment schemes we do lack investments in our ecosystems, or companies do lack investments, and also consolidated financing of different solutions. It's really tricky one for the companies, because oftenly you need to collaborate with local authorities, and really oftenly, or like in majority cases, end users are not the ones who are actually buying your solutions. These are the local authorities, government organizations. So consolidated financing is really needed, and focused collaboration between public authorities, reference sites all across the Europe and the industry in order to succeed on cross-border scale-up solutions. So to have more focused collaboration formats for the companies. So these are the goals what we would like to achieve during this project. And with this participatory design toolkit, we actually mapped different aspects why to use or who should use this toolkit for participatory design. And mainly it's focused on enterprises. and they could or would be or should be motivated to use the toolkit for supporting participatory design activities and scaling up services. So this is really something that we do not want to create or repeat already created frameworks or toolkits. We also do not compete with already created toolkits. What we try to do is a guidance for the companies to go smoothly through the process and to have best results with less resources. Let's put it this way. And also, I think the toolkit could be also interesting for academic researchers and also policymakers, because one of the outcomes from this project will be also policy recommendations. So I hope that this toolkit also helps for local authorities and policymakers to better understand the process of designing solutions and involving stakeholders. And of course, investors would use the toolkit to be involved in the development of the solution from the early stages, to be informed and to make decisions so whether to invest in this solution or not. But mostly, and the toolkit is meant for the companies to go through the process and to then later stages to include different methodologies for your process. Just a remark, we also will publish in the nearest future a report of different methodologies of co-design methodologies. So I will not go through this one by one here, those methodologies, but stay tuned, and we will let you know when the report is ready and we can publish it. Here is a really short overview of the process, and also Daniel really well explained how to go through this process. And yeah, you need to know what your team is working towards, what is the problem to start with it, and then go step by step. Go through different elements of designing the toolkit or your solution. And there is another kind of process or circle how to go through this design thinking methodology. Is like, really, first you need to understand, then to explore the opportunities, ideas, and finally you need to materialize your solution. Like Daniel also said, innovation is only, we can consider innovation only when it's implemented. So you need to finally also implement your solution. So the toolkit at the moment is in a format of questionnaire, a checklist of questions what you need to go through in order to select the correct methodologies or tools, or find relevant stakeholders for your solution. So the topics of the toolkit at the moment are divided in 4 chapters. First is understanding the market and the business. The second one is usability and accessibility of the solution. One separate topic is data flow, because we really think that this is one of the main questions. You need to start solving this question from the very first moment you start designing your solution. You need to think about also about the data and how to use it. And of course, technical regulatory issues that are relevant part of your development process. And it's quite obvious, but first thing what you need to do is what is your product? What is your service? So this is something that you really need to explain to yourself and to your stakeholders. And it's even better if you don't come up with the product by yourself, but you have some kind of background information, you have discussions with the end users. It's the same thing that Daniel explained, or the same project process what Daniel explained. So discuss with your end users. And now we are going through this checklist for toolbox questions. So one of the really important tracks, or important to divide these two tracks, or it's a slightly different process, whether your solution is medical device or not. And for that, actually, we found that it's really good tool, because we, as I said, we are not trying to go to do with this toolbox, like we don't compete already with already existing tools. And for that selection, or that division, actually really good toolbox is available. It's Oxford Global Guidance for that, and you can find the link also in my presentation. And actually this tool gives you really good answer whether you need to go for medical device certificate, or you can implement your solution without this certificate. And then really the second really important block of question is list of intellectual properties, if any. Like you need to protect your uniqueness, and not only you don't need to protect from technical perspective, but you also need to protect your business data integrity. So there are quite important tracks to follow. And now the process, actually, I am listing you or going through this checklist. At the moment, if you have some comments, please drop those comments right away in this Dropbox. And later on, we will also publish this presentation. And also, we do leave this presentation or this toolbox open for feedbacks for a couple of weeks. We have time for that. So all of you who registered for this workshop, you all can actually, you will receive all the information, and then you can give feedback to this checklist. Because really, already this part of the toolbox, we haven't designed it behind the table, just me and my team, but we try to follow this participatory design already here. So I hope that with your help, we will only improve this checklist of the questions. The question, first market business sector will tackle the topic of value creation. And the main issue here is, or the main question here is there a need for your product actually? And of course, who is your customer? And what is the existing competition already on the market? And here, really tricky one is, what is your unique value proposition for the customer segment? How you are different from your competitors? And also question about the who is your real buyers on the market? Is it a public entity, or is it a private end user? Is there a reimbursement available for the solution? Any other funding mechanism or schemes for the solution? So you don't not only identify or describing the value for the end users, but you also have to describe the value for created to all the relevant stakeholders. If public authority or municipality is willing to buy your solution, they also need to know what is the value created for them, not only for the end user. And then the second box, or really market business topic is business model development. Here, I think that we do not need to go in too deep with this co-creation process, because there are tools available for business model development. But yeah, of course, you have to define who are your key partners, what are your key resources, physical, financial, intellectual resources, and do you have a plan for collection of economic data? This is really important as well. As I said, that later on you might be, or you are forced to present this data to prove that there is an actual value created during this process of development. And stakeholder engagement for this market business checklist. Who are the stakeholders? You need to create a stakeholder map. Who are your economic payers? This is really important. Like who is willing to give money out, and collecting feedback from them. And also, I guess that investor readiness and feedback from investors is really important in this block or at this stage. Another second really big block of questions in this checklist are about usability and accessibility of the solutions. And it might sound really trivial, but the question, do you engage users in the development of the product, is I think that you need to ask first, because as also Daniel referred, that the situation is getting better, but you need to consider that it might not be the case all the time. Mapping your key users' journeys, like Daniel beautifully explained already. Do you undertake user acceptance testing to validate usability of the services and all the product? Does the service consider different physical, social, and environmental needs of the user? Accessibility question is really relevant. And why I'm underlining this here is because in Estonia, it's still a bit, we're doing baby steps in accessibility issues. So, and personally for me, it's really relevant. So also digital solutions should be accessible for those who are maybe have some problems with their eyes, or they don't hear very well. So all these kind of questions should be considered. And again, stakeholder engagement and feedbacks, end users feedbacks, collecting feedback from the end users and mapping end users. And here we're talking about really specific end users of the solutions. In some cases, it can be a private person using the solution, but again, in some cases, it can be a clinician or relatives or the close ones to the person who are using this solution. So you have to be careful who is the end user, but nevertheless, it's really direct feedback from the end users. Now the data flow questions. As I said, here it's a tricky one to actually think who should be part of your code, like partners in the co-design process when we talk about data flow. This question is a bit open right now, but anyway, the questions you need to ask are about the who and how can access your data, regulatory review and audit of your data flows. Do you know what type of data is being processed and what are the requirements for processing? GDPR, of course, is one of the key elements here. Do you have an internal protocol for data usage? Do you have a policy for data reuse by external stakeholders? It's really important to have a real value from the data. Have you developed a consent form for processing users' data? Are you using safeguards to prevent data leaks? So these are some of the questions you need to ask from yourself before designing this code development process. but we also do have an outcome from this Innovation for Active and Healthy Aging project, and we are publishing a framework for data processing and data interoperability. So this is something to keep in mind, and I hope that we can support companies with this with the issue of using data in their solutions by publishing this report. Technical questions, regulatory issues, and here I don't want to talk about different standards or different different standards or technical questions. Here, for me, more important questions are how is your product or service integrated into the bigger service delivery system, and not only IT system, but more importantly, actual service delivery system. Like really hospital care, is it the hospital, is it the care home, is it the home care system or some other system? So really interoperability and interaction with the system that is actually providing your service. Do you have workflow descriptions? Do you have essential regulatory requirements checklist, for instance? So for me, the most relevant question is that how your solution is interacting with the processes of home care nurse, for instance, or with the needs of the care at point for the specialist or maybe also at home. So here the most important question is like really how to integrate with the processes rather than having correct standards, which is also important. But I think that in the framework of this project, it's not we don't need to tackle this issue because there are other frameworks for that. Yeah, and again, really stakeholder engagement at that stage or this point is really important. Again, stakeholder map and feedback from specialist reports, validation testing, etc. And if you have a medical device, remember when in the beginning we said that it's slightly different than, there are different questions to ask from yourself if your solution follows under the category of medical device. So the questions then are, do you understand the unmet need? Do you have a clinical workflow description, clinical trials plan, peer-reviewed publications plan? And again, here the stakeholder is really important. And here mostly the stakeholders are clinicians and maybe some other specialists relevant to your solution. Okay, stakeholders with this. And now the comments or questions we would like to tag or to maybe narrow down the scope of the co-creation toolbox, or maybe we are missing some really important topics here. But remember, this is a questionnaire for a process. We don't want to go too deep into this business model creation, for instance, because there are tools available for that already. Then the next question is that we have a list of questions, but how we should measure the answers? What are the criteria? Is it enough to have yes or no answers? Or is it better to have some kind of scores for that? For instance, like let's have like -3 to +3. So minus is like you are far from the goal you need to achieve, and +3 is like really excellent. Or is it the free text answers? Then how to analyze those free text answers for the for the companies, how easy it is to use or to analyze these free text answers. So this is one of the questions. And then milestones for questions. It was one of the feedbacks from the interviews I conducted earlier, that it would be good to have some kind of stages of the process. So I have completed this stage 1. Now I can move on to the stage number 2. For instance, this circle what I showed you before, it kind of gives you indication. It's like ideation of the product, development of the product, and implementation of the product. Or should it be a more frequent loop if we think about the milestones for the questions or the stages? And of course, there were some other links we used, not only interviews, but these questions or these blocks are coming from different tools that EIT Health, for instance, is using already. And these are this Oxford Global Guidance I mentioned also earlier. EIT Jumpstarter workbook, really good workbook. It's not health specific, and it's more how to develop your company together with your solution. But there are some parts in this workbook, really relevant part that you should go through before developing or while developing your solution. And quite big part is coming from Cement Maturity Innovation Template, also available on EIT Health webpage. It really gives, it's kind of similar to technology readiness levels, but it kind of puts some flesh on the bones, what it means to have ready for market solution. So these are the references we use to design this questionnaire, and yeah, so that's it. This was the checklist for the questions for the process. Now I don't know how we can continue, because while I was talking, I was not able to follow the questions. Question to my team: did you follow the questions? Do I have some really urgent questions to answer right now, or can we? Yeah. Thank you for the again. We had this. I don't know. Is it the real Robin, or is it somebody else who? But thank you for this EdHealth. This link to these challenges for companies in handling the new medical device regulation. I think that it's really relevant information, and I will go through these this material you provided. I would add to the checklist the novelty of the solution itself, but also idea, techniques, business solution. Okay, this is something that this is from Kaia. I know Kaia is a real person. So yeah, we can think about it, and this novelty should be part of this value creation, I guess. Yes, you will get the presentation slides from today, and of the pending publication of the, yeah, okay. Thanks for letting us know. For sure, we will publish all the information, and just there are some platforms and some tools you can interact with us. It's not only these seminars we are organizing, but we have also our social media, our I will put it here, so you can see we have different tools you can contact with us. It's social media, it's Facebook, it's LinkedIn. You can drop an email, and for sure we will say out loud when the publications are approved by the Commission, and we can publish them. Okay, I guess I went through all the questions. Yeah. Yes, and thank you, Diane. Okay, Diane, Diane posted this link. Thank you, Diane. So I guess that now it's your turn to reflect what you saw, what is important, what is relevant, and what is not that relevant maybe to you. We will send you all the information all by email, and then you can actually ask the question or, provide answers to the questions asked, and also give your ideas through these communication channels as well. And as I said, please use our Facebook to comment, use our LinkedIn to comment. I guess that was it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for being active listeners, and hoping to hear from you soon. Thank you and goodbye.